Hello, everyone, and welcome to our midweek meditation. This is the first of a series of meditations that we're going to be doing in which I'm going to be having conversations with elders from our church. Elders are people that make up the session of our congregation, which is the governing body of a Presbyterian church. And we have 12 ruling elders, normally called elders, on our session, and 2 teaching elders, normally called ministers, on our session. So the 14 of us make up the session. And I think during this time when we've been apart from each other for so long, it's a good idea to reintroduce some of these people called elders who have such an important role as servants and leaders within the congregation to you. And it's a good chance for you to get to know them and maybe some things about them that you don't know, so that when we do get back together again, you'll know something a little bit more about each of our elders. So I'm looking forward to this time, and I'm hoping that you'll watch these midweek meditations and get to know and learn something about these elders, and also that you'll continue to pray for them as they are praying for you and for all of our congregation as a whole. So I'm going to begin our first conversation with Isabel Evans. And Isabel is one of our elders, and she also happens to be the representative elder from our session to the presbytery. So she's got a lot of work that she does for the congregation and for the presbytery as well. So Isabel, welcome to our conversation for this midweek meditation.
Thank you.
Here. I want to just ask you, a lot of people know who you are, but maybe a lot don't. So tell us a little bit about who you are. If people actually listen to you, they know you're not actually born in Canada because you've got an accent there. So tell us, where are you from, and kind of your journey from where you were born to be here in Richmond. Maybe a little bit about your family.
Okay. Well, I was born the youngest of 6. I have 3 brothers and 2 sisters, and I was born in Port Glasgow in Scotland. I grew up there. I went to college in Glasgow for 2 years. Then after that, I trained in Paisley as a registered nurse. And then after that, I trained as a midwife in Elderslie in Scotland. A short time after that, we came to Canada. That's my husband and I. We weren't married at that time, but we were engaged. We just came for a year just to see what it was like in a different country. But that was in January 68, and we're still here. So we did go home in a year, and we got married and came back to Canada. Lived in Calgary for just about 2 years, moved to Vancouver in January, September 69, we moved to Vancouver. And I worked, well, in Calgary, of course, I worked at Calgary General. Then here I worked at St. Vincent's Hospital for about 9 years. We had one son, Brian. All of my family, my mother, she was always very active in her church. None of the rest of us stayed in church. We all left. I stopped going to church when I was about, before I was, well, probably about 10 or 11. Anyway, but my mother, she was active in the Women's Guild and all of that sort of thing. My brothers did go to the Boys Brigade. That was in Scotland. Here, I worked in that, yeah, I also worked in Richmond Journal for a while. Then I worked mainly in medical offices, because that time the hours suited me better, because lots of times I was on my own with Brian. My husband, he had a problem with alcohol. He was an alcoholic, and at times he would go into recovery, and after those times we would be together, but often we were apart because he kept slipping back. But for a long time he had stopped drinking, so we were back together again. Anyway, because of his alcoholism, I had started going to a fellowship. It's called Al-Anon. And they call it a spiritual program. It's based on the 12 steps and traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous. And it was through that program that I actually ended up coming to church, because after a while they talk about God as I understand him. And it didn't take me too long to realize if I could understand God, if I could understand everything about God, he couldn't be much of a God. So I thought there's got to be something more than just a God that I can understand. So anyway, I asked my friend, who was also Scottish, and she was a member of Richmond Presbyterian. And so I asked her what church she went to. So I came to that church. I started coming there, I think, in December of 76. So, and I helped, after, I'm sure Tony, I don't know, sometimes I often wonder at Tony, the patience that Tony Plump had with me, because I'm sure I took up a lot of his time with all my questions and things that I just couldn't believe that I read in the Bible. And I thought, people can't really believe that. And so Tony, he is definitely, has been a spiritual mentor for me. And I think I'm glad my mother had us baptized. We were all baptized as infants in the Church of Scotland. And I firmly believe that is more what God does for us rather than what we do for God by having our children baptized. Anyway, that's how I started coming to Richmond, and I've always come since then. So I've been coming there a long time, and I do enjoy Richmond Church and the people that go there. Some of the people are very, very kind and generous and very very much more Christian-like than me, but I have enjoyed my time there. I do enjoy my time there.
It's great,
So,
Isabel. Thank you for sharing so much about your background and being so honest and forthright about some of the challenges
yeah,
that you faced. But I think it's interesting to know that sometimes these challenges are pathways, right? They're gateways to deeper spiritual time of questioning. And how wonderful that in Tony Plump, of course, who was such a fantastic minister here for so long, that you found someone who had the patience and who had the right sort of temperament that could really meld with you, right? And that, because we have lots of times where I think people have questions, but they don't know who to go to, or sometimes they even go to their minister, and their minister doesn't have the time for them, or doesn't really respond to them in a way that helps to keep the conversation going. Sometimes we get answers that are just bang, 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 and that's it. And I'm glad that Tony had the wisdom and the patience and the capacity to hear you, to listen to you, and to help
yeah.
you come.
I think one of the one of the main reasons we hit it off so well to begin with is that we both smoked.
There you go.
Not that that's, I mean, I haven't smoked for many, many years now, but I think that was a connection that we had before. Yeah.
Well,
Anyway.
I'm sure through all the haze of all the smoke, you had good conversations. Listen, so you came to Richmond Church through your contact, first of all, with organizations like Al-Anon, and then the person that helped you get introduced to RPC and Tony. At some point, people discerned in you some gifts for eldership. Can you tell us a little bit about what you discerned about that sense of call to be an elder? I know that most elders don't believe that, hey, look at me, I'm an elder. But for you, what was the discernment for you about being called to the eldership?
Well, at first when people approached me, my reaction was, well, you've got to be joking. I mean, I'm, I don't think I'm made out or material to be an elder. And then I would read some passages in the Bible where it told you about, you know, some of the gifts the elders should have. And I thought, oh, there's no way. So, you know, they were calling elders. It was the third time that they were calling elders. I mean, it took me a couple of years in the church even to become aware of different things. So they may have called elders more often, but it was the third time that people had approached me when they were calling elders, and I just kept saying, I couldn't be an elder. I'm not right to be an elder anyway. The third time, a couple of people had asked me, and then Tony actually called me in and he said that he was aware that people had asked me to be an elder. And I said, and he said, why, why don't you do it? And I said, well, Tony, I couldn't, I don't know enough, to be he said, Isabel, if everybody waited till they thought they knew enough and were ready to be an elder, we wouldn't have any. He said, because most people never feel quite ready. So he asked me to pray about it and think about that. And then the more I thought about it, and I thought, well, Tony's saying we don't always need to be perfect and get everything right. And we don't need to know all about church polity and all the rules of the church. Maybe I could learn, and Tony said that he would obviously help with any questions or so. So that's when I finally agreed to become an elder. Yeah, but
Thank
for
you.
sure, I still laugh to myself at times when I think of me as an elder because. But anyway, the
God's
one
ways are not our ways, eh?
one
One of the roles.
one thing that
Oh, go ahead.
Brian asked me when Brian, he must have been about, oh, I don't know, 8 or 10 or something like that when I became an elder. And Brian said, oh, does that mean you get your own parking spot in the church parking lot? I said, no. But I always think that's funny. So
One of the things as an elder is that you have a district of people that you are sort of the frontline pastoral care person for, and I know that you're in touch with your district on a regular basis, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate the fact that our elders are all trying to be in touch with their districts, especially in a time when we can't be together. So I really give thanks for our elders. It's one of the realities of the pandemic, isn't it? Is that we can't be together. So how are you coping with the restrictions and the reality of this pandemic that none of us could have imagined? How are you coping with it, Isabel?
it's, well, generally, I mean, uh, I think obviously my faith helps me cope with it, because I do believe each day has its own troubles unto itself, and I try and take each day as it comes. Start out as if it's a new. Well, it is a new day, but um, so I try and be prepared for whatever may happen that day. And one thing I know is that God is always with me, is always with us. And by saying that, I don't mean that He'll protect me from the virus. I don't mean it in that way, but whatever happens, God is always with us. Um, I mean, because I live in a housing co-op, I think, and we have a lot more people around us, and even although we keep our social distancing here in the co-op, at least we can see each other as we're passing and out in the back. And in the summertime, we can sit out, you know, and talk to people. And so it's not as bad in those respects, but I've been affected in other ways. I mean, as a lot of people are aware, um, Clark got really sick and he was in hospital for a month and I couldn't visit. So that was a difficult time. It was a very difficult time. We could talk like this or on phones and stuff, but it was really, really hard not to be able to visit because he was getting sicker each day type of thing. But anyway, eventually they moved Clark into palliative care unit in Richmond, and Brian and I were able to visit him in there. And then he died on the 3rd of June, which, I mean, although he'd been sick for a month, it was quite sudden. It was still sudden and unexpected because he had been recovering really well before he got really sick. And so that made it, that was a very difficult time. And, you know, I think I've even kind of blocked some things out because I try and think about things that happened during those days and the days that just followed. And sometimes I don't remember all the details. So, because at the same time, Caroline, our daughter-in-law, she was admitted into Richmond General the day before Clark died, and she had a cesarean section at 5:45 or 2:45 on the 2nd of June. And we have a beautiful little granddaughter. But then Clark died on the 3rd of June. So it was really quite
A lot happening at the same time. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But you know, the one thing that often helps me in any crisis that I have to face is the thought of my church family. I feel so blessed to be a member of Richmond Church, and I know that other people are praying for me. And because sometimes I don't quite know what to pray for myself, but just knowing that other people are praying, that's what helps get me through. I think I've kind of gone off what your original question was, but
Well, let me kind of bring this back now as we sort of close up here, Isabel, which is, I know that the pandemic has created restrictions for us. Part of that you talked about having to deal with the restrictions of the pandemic while your husband Clark was quite sick and then was dying, but also then that time was sort of, you know, within the midst of that grief, there was also the joy of little Avery being born at the same time. So I mean, there's a real mixture here, and I'm preaching this Sunday about blessed are they that mourn, for they will be comforted. And you've touched upon some of how God comforts us, right? Not only by his presence, but also by the presence of our friends, the church, the family of the church. So I'm glad you brought that up. Now I want to talk a little bit about, in closing, what are you most looking forward to? What are you most looking forward to?
You know, I don't know. I think maybe the thing I'm looking most forward to is when I meet people, friends, and I'm not a person that hugs a lot or anything like that, but I think that's what I'm looking forward to most is when I see somebody, if we feel like hugging each other, we don't have to stop and think about it, you know.
Right.
I think maybe something like that is what I'm looking forward to, because as I say, otherwise, I mean, I have, wow, being on some of the committees, we have quite a few Zoom calls, and also Munch and Mingle. I usually try and participate in that on a Sunday, and even although it's not the same, it's very, I find it helpful just to see people. And but I think it's more the personal touch that
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to.
Okay.
Um,
Well,
not, but people don't have to worry. I won't be running up and hugging everybody see, because
Here
I'm not
comes
that.
Isabel. Get out of the way. All right. Listen, I think we all look forward to being able to have some contact with
Yeah.
other people. So I want to really thank you, Isabel, for sharing this conversation with me. These aren't long conversations, obviously, but they're just, they're just ways in which hopefully we can come to understand a little bit more about each other. And again, hold some of these things in our prayers for one another. So as we close, let me just say a quick prayer for you. Gracious God, I want to thank you for Isabel, faithful servant, an elder of this congregation. And I want to thank you for her life's journey and for the way that your Spirit has led her into a life of faith, but also for the people that you've surrounded her with, who have encouraged her, who have been patient with her, who have been wise in terms of how they have interacted with Isabel, and for eventually her coming to faith and coming to faith as an elder in your church. We thank you that in moments of grieving and loss, that she has been surrounded by family and friends, and the friends here at Richmond Presbyterian Church. So we thank you for that, and we thank you for the countless people that Isabel, as an elder and as a Christian, has been able to support and encourage and serve. Be with all of us as we continue to serve you in this time, which has been challenging and difficult, but also a time of opportunity. Guide us through all of this, for we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
And
Thank
friends,
you.
I'm going to just invite you to stick around and listen to a beautiful musical meditation from our music director, Gianni Burdetti, and want to encourage you to tune in every Wednesday for a new meditation, midweek meditation with one of our elders, and then hopefully later on with members of our congregation as well. I wish you a blessed week, and we'll see you soon. Take care. Thanks, Isabel.
Thanks.